So I wanted to get a little bit of your input on what do you think these are? And I'm maybe even by the time this episode is released, we'll have an answer as to what they are. But I'd like to know what you think they are and what you're feeling.
I found it very strange that right out the gate, everyone was calling them drones. I mean, right off the bat, first of all, like they're the size of cars or larger, is what most people are saying. I don't know how many people have seen drones the size of cars,
I don't know if this was in New Jersey or if this is somewhere else.
and that's like
Um,
the whole sphere is fluctuating colors
right,
rapidly,
right,
but from the ground it looks
and I
mostly
mean,
white.
there's a fleet there.
Yeah.
So you first heard that someone said that they believed it was this kind of like, military type
They're trying to
phenomenon.
put it off to being a military operation by a foreign country. Yeah.
Hmm.
The UFO world has kind of been buzzing about lots of people having dreams or having channeling sessions or having encounters with ETs where what they're being told is, we're going to reveal ourselves to you soon.
Okay. So this is maybe where we lose some of the audience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Right.
I'm just
But
saying,
no, I get it.
I don't know for anything for sure, right?
Absolutely.
But,
Where are you hearing that? Are you hearing that amongst the
well, I told you about Bashar last time we were chatting. But yeah, it just has me thinking that I personally think they are UAPs. I think there's so many of them right now in so many locations that the government can't just say, "Oh, it's an airplane," or they can't just write it off because there's way too many videos being taken. And as you
Yeah.
said, some of them are very clear. Um, and at the same time that this is going on, the UFO world has kind of been buzzing about lots of people having dreams or having um, channeling sessions or having encounters with ETs where what they're being told is, we're going to reveal ourselves to you soon.
Okay. So this is maybe where we lose some of the audience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Right.
I'm just
But
saying,
no, I get
I
it.
don't know for anything for sure, right?
Absolutely.
But,
Where are you hearing that? Are you hearing that amongst the
well, I told you about Bashar last time we were chatting. Um, he said he's a guy who channels a being, but unlike most people who channel, he's had his brain studied at universities, and they say that when he's channeling, his brain is acting totally differently than when he's not channeling or than when he's lying or anything else. So he's got some data to back up his ability. And basically, what he does is sit down with people, and they can ask him questions, and he will answer for the being that he's channeling. Um, And the crazy thing is, they can ask him any kind of question, and without even a hesitation, he comes up with an amazing answer right away. It's not like he doesn't have to backtrack and try and readjust what he said the way I do a lot. Like he
Mm,
just has the answer and it comes out, and the person's like, "Thank you. Wow." Anyway, he said certainly by 2027 they will have revealed themselves to the entire planet. Um, Another person on YouTube who I've been following lately, his name is Jordan Crowder, Crowder. That's his channel name, Jordan Crowder, with a space. And he mentioned how I think it was someone he knew had a dream where, they were outside and the sky was just filled with UFOs, filled. And the person who had the dream was just looking up the sky going like, whoa. And then his next episode which was about a few days or a week later, he was like, whoa, I got so many replies from people who had the same dream. They were outside and the sky was filled with UFOs. And I was telling my mom about it, and she was like, "Oh, I've had that dream."
oh wow. Well,
And I was like,
I had a NDE or Barbara Gale on. This would have been
"Yes," she said
I
those
think
exact words.
2 or 3 months ago, and she said that literally the quote that I put in the thumbnail of the video is what she said was spacecraft will fill the skies. And
Yes.
it's because she saw the vision of it happening. because she did not feel that um, we are on a trajectory that makes sense in a way.
Yep.
I don't want to put words in her mouth, but that we are needing a realignment of sorts that some
Hmm.
of us aren't meant to be, you know, it went into some pretty deep details that got, out there about whether some of
Yeah.
us are staying here, some of us aren't staying here. There was a lot of, and some of this could be interpretation. I don't know. I mean, Barbara was amazing. I don't know half, I just listen to my guests and I give them the platform to talk, just like
Right.
you being on here. And but it's fascinating when you have a number of people saying the same thing, you start to
Right.
go, well,
The
what?
YouTube video, a whole, like about tons and tons of comments. My mom, your guest, and many, many other people.
Mhm,
How, like, it's very strange that they're all having the same thoughts, if not, dream visuals.
mhm,
Um, and I think I heard someone say that basically they're tired of us waiting, uh, or they're tired of waiting for us to get our stuff together and try and fix the environment and take care of the planet because supposedly Earth is important to other beings who are out there for whatever reason because it's unique or whatever. Um, and but they don't just step in and stop us from dropping nukes and stuff because that's like when you have kids, you want them to learn a lesson, right? You don't just want to take away what they're doing a bad thing with or whatever. You want them to understand why it's bad and you want them to start taking the correct actions.
mhm.
So they don't just want to swoop in and take away the nukes and because we'll just make more nukes and perpetuate the problems. So they want us to learn, hey, your planet's important. Like, start
Right.
taking care of it. And
But
what I'm taking away from a lot of these dreams,
at the same time, if you see your child running around with a sharp knife and they don't know any better, you're likely to step in though and take that
yes.
knife away. And,
Well, if
so
they're risking killing themselves,
that's
right?
right. That's right. And
Or the
so,
planet,
right.
kids don't wouldn't ruin the planet, but we can, and we're basically kids in the galactic sense of things. So yeah, they see us doing stuff where like we're on the brink of World War III. It's a very dangerous situation now. And I think what I'm gathering from what people are saying about the sky being filled with UFOs, etc., is that the other beings out there basically said, you know what? We got to start preparing them. We got to start getting them used to the idea of us being in the skies and near their planet. And we're gradually going to ramp it up to where, okay, maybe they see all these drones to start with. Then they're going to see bigger ships. Then they're going to have daytime sightings. Then maybe they'll see an ET or a couple
I,
ETs. And then we're going to come down and say, okay, we're here. We're laying down the law, the galactic law. You guys need to stop doing this, right?
yeah.
And now we're like way out in UFO land here, but
Mhm.
um,
Right. I was gonna say that it sounds like something out of a movie. Um,
Signs is the movie, yeah.
yeah, right. Right. But you know, I
Or
saw a
Arrival,
few
sorry.
I saw a few videos of concerned officials who, you know, said things like, whatever these things are, just blow them out of the sky. Just bring one down. Let's just blow it
Yeah.
up. If it's over top of the water, blow it up. Let's just see what this thing is.
Hmm.
And why isn't that happening? Why are they not able to do it? If there's so much confusion over what these things are, just take one down. If it's a drone, right? If it's a
Hmm.
drone, that shouldn't be difficult to take down, should it?
Right.
So
No,
this is
shouldn't.
where my this is like
Drones are fast and maneuverable, but they're not
yeah.
going to
What
outmaneuver the US's best missiles, right?
what do you think? Going back to what you said earlier, you said about the terminology of the word drone. Why did they use the word drone? What
Well,
I mean, again, this could end up being a drone. So
yeah,
everybody watching this, maybe I'll delete the
sure.
video if it ends up being us talking silly here. But like,
I
if
mean,
if like, why would they use that if that's not what they are, or if
here's
that is
another
what
word for a drone, okay, or another term to describe a drone. Unmanned vehicle, unmanned aerial vehicle. Like we have drones. Guess what? There's nobody in them. We're controlling them from somewhere else. Why? It keeps our humans safe, right? We're not going to lose any lives. Why wouldn't they do the same thing? You know, they could be outside our atmosphere, remote controlling these things. If we take one down, who cares? Send five more. Like, there
But
used to
why?
be a lot of
But why would they
rumors
look like
about
ours? They look
bodies
like
being
ours.
recovered or whatever.
You know.
Well,
Again, I'm going down from the other side of it. Sorry to interrupt
yep,
you there, but I'm looking at
yeah,
it like, okay, from what they look like, I haven't seen any still images. Have you seen any still? Is there any still images out there of these? Should I look it up?
there's some, yeah. Why would they want to look like our tech, like airplanes and stuff?
Right, like if they these were sophisticated,
Yeah.
from some other galactic federation, if they were from a different galaxy or a different, wouldn't they look different? Just like if you look at the UFOs that we've seen over the years, there's so
Oh,
many
sure.
different types. So I'm like, why would these ones? Why would they have something that looks similar to what we're used to seeing?
Okay,
But
so
they're
let me
massive
ask you
though
a
in
question.
comparison. Yeah,
If you're a soldier, right, and you are infiltrating an enemy base, would you want to be dressed like a Canadian soldier or an enemy soldier? If I
right.
have to sneak into an enemy base, do I want to be dressed in Canadian military gear or enemy military gear?
Right.
Like, maybe they want to look like airplanes and helicopters so we don't shoot them down. Because if you see a plane, you're going to be like, oh crap, how many people are on that thing? If that is a plane and not a drone, we'll get in trouble if we shoot it down. Oh, the other thing I should say I heard about these drones, none of them have FAA transponders. So any airplane that flies in the States or any helicopter needs to have a transponder so that on radar, like it won't just show a blip, it'll show, United Airlines 437
Mhm.
or UA 437 is the flight. Um, and none of these drones are showing transponders.
Right.
So they're as big as a plane or a car or something, but none of them are reporting back
Hmm.
using the normal flight data.
So you're seeing some of these pictures that we have here.
Yeah, like that is fairly drone shaped, but drones don't usually have a big, weird double light on the bottom.
Right. Yeah. You're right. Like when I look at it now, it looks,
Like
you
there could be
know,
four rotors on there, you
it
know?
looks similar to what I've seen on a drone. I don't personally have a drone, but there's something about it that looks a little different too.
Yeah,
But again, this might turn out to just be
that doesn't
some.
look normal.
No, I know. There's so many of these. Growing mystery over drones, growing mystery over drones. So I just keep seeing this everywhere.
Yeah,
And it's kind of like, it gets to a point. I don't want to stick on the drone subject for too long, but it's
sure.
it's 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 definitely in the news right now. So it's a big piece of the,
Yeah,
puzzle right now that we're trying to figure out. And it goes along the whole look at the last couple of years with the way that they've been going on and talking about UAPs and having going to Congress and having all these big meetings and it's is there a coincidence this is happening? I don't know. I think it's bizarre. And I guess we wait and we see what happens. What I do you know I want to I'm going to anticipate happens if is that they go away and that there's no answer.
hmm
Uh,
that's the most likely thing, right?
right, but at what point do we step in and say what's going on? Like what
What was
what is
that?
that? Like
It
what's
happened. Why did we drop the topic?
right. We just move on. It's like, okay, let's go get a sub. Let's like, okay, I guess we're just gonna discontinue the, what that is. But it almost seems like this time, like it's right in everybody's face.
Yeah,
I mean, with it being everywhere. Like I saw in different countries, there was reports of these, but I'm not seeing too many other videos about that. But I just find it kind of weird. So we'll see what happens with it.
yeah,
But that is interesting that there's no, pieces of what would be in a helicopter or something that would communicate that they're in the skies. And
yeah.
I'm wondering if the communication centers are seeing these things in the skies. Like, are they showing up on radar?
They are. Yep.
They are showing up on radar. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
So there's something there.
Hmm.
They're being tracked on radar and people are visually seeing them. And I
That's
don't know if they're
crazy.
making sound or not. But also there's situations where like I've seen some videos where like one larger drone will enter the screen or drone. It will enter the screen, right? And then like smaller drones will come off of it. And
I
sometimes they form a triangle, a perfect equilateral triangle. And then that triangle moves as if it's one thing, and flies like this, and then zooms off. Or sometimes it will do some maneuvers and then it will disassemble, or the little pieces will go back in the main one and it will take off.
I have
Yeah,
I have the video of that. Let me bring this on.
sure.
So, okay, so here is this video, and watch what
Yep.
happens here. I've turned off the words because there's a lot of exploit
Expletives.
captions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay. So there's something
there's
up
something
there.
above it, and there's now watch how they go in a like they start kind of moving around one another.
Hmm.
And this is
And I've heard people say that these things are like flares before.
and then they disappeared.
Um,
That disappeared.
Flares usually just fall. They don't really maneuver like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting that they just faded out.
Yeah, like so you're saying that flares can do that, but I don't
Well,
know.
that's
It's
what
all
they originally blamed the Phoenix lights on parachute people or people who were parachuting. I think they said it was military exercises with paratroopers, and they were carrying flares. But like it was in the sky for a long time.
Mhm.
I think paratroopers generally go down.
Right.
Also, I think initially they were separate lights, and then they formed a V shape in the sky, and it was massive, and it flew over the whole city of Phoenix, and tons of people saw it, and they were like, "No, that was not that was not paratroopers."
Yeah.
And something I've seen before is looking up in the sky at night, and I see, the three lights, so it's making a triangle. But in between the three lights is pitch black. It's actually blacker than black. Like it looks almost like it's absorbing light, like a black hole. But my point there is that all around that thing, you see stars. But in
Okay.
the middle of these three things, which just came together right into a triangular formation, in the middle, you see nothing at all.
So is that implying that it's a larger uh UFO, UAP than
It could be. It could be. It could be that somehow they form a larger thing. Or it could be that there's some sort of energy moving between those three things that it absorbs so much energy that it actually absorbs the light that's coming towards it so it doesn't bounce back to your eyes.
wow.
Because that's how I see everything, right? Like I can see that wall because there's light bouncing off that wall and coming into my eye.
Right.
But if that wall absorbed 100% of the light, I couldn't see it at all. It would just look like there's nothing there.
So that starts to get really down the whole quantum world how things
Yeah.
work. And I am not qualified to even try to speculate how any of that works.
No.
Let's
Me
talk
neither.
let's talk a little bit about the Bigfoot world. What's going on in the Bigfoot world? Let's get some new information. Anything new happen in the world of Sasquatch?
Anything new? Man.
What have you been up to? Have you seen anything? Have you been witness to anything? Talked to
I haven't been
anyone?
able to find much time to go out. I did. Some guy asked me to be in a Sasquatch documentary, and I said okay. And then he was like, "Can I come film you on Wednesday?" And I was like, "Sure." This was like a month ago, 2 months ago, maybe. And so I took him out to a couple places where I had found some things, some like odd structures made out of sticks, and yeah, I took him there, and I had been to this one place at night before because it's a clearing with woods around it, and I felt kind of okay in the clearing, and there's a pond there too. But in the woods around it is where I had originally gone when I first wanted to see if there was anything Sasquatchy in our area. And I went down there and like I had watched it. I've mentioned this before on our previous two episodes, so I won't go too deep into it. But a guy basically said, go to a place where there's habitat, where there's like, prey animals and water and good cover, and just go off the trail into the forest. And you'll find things made out of sticks that Sasquatch makes, or we think Sasquatch makes. So some things look like teepees. Some things just look like sticks, a bunch of sticks purposefully leaned against a tree, which is called a tree lean. Sometimes you might find a tree that's been bent over and had its tip shoved into the ground, and sometimes they put rocks on it to hold it bent over.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you'll find a tree that's completely upside down with the top of the tree stuck in the ground and the roots are up in the air. Anyway, I decided to go look in there on lunch hour one time, and I found like 20 of these different things. And I was like, whoa, mind blown. And
And is
then
this a place where people would be in walking around all the time? Is
people
this
walk their dogs there every day,
yeah.
every single day.
Okay.
So yeah, I looked around there in the daytime, and then I did a lot of research into Sasquatch and how people encounter them. Or it didn't occur to me that people could encounter them on purpose before this. Like it just seemed like something that would happen literally in the middle of nowhere in the mountains. Like you might cross paths with one, like 1 in a million people, right?
Mhm.
But I found out that no, some people are making intentional contact. And this one guy told me, look, I've been doing this for like 30 years. You got to go to a place where there's lots of cover and for them and a clearing for you. So what you do is just go hang out in the clearing at night. Ideally with no moonlight and no starlight. So that kind of time is called a new moon. When there's a new moon, there's no moon at all.
Okay.
But a new one is about to arrive. So there's no moon at all, and there's ideally cloud cover. So there's no starlight either. It's as black can be. So I went down to this place where I had found those stick structures and tree things, and I went back in that clearing, and I didn't want to run into people, so I went at 2:30 in the morning, and it was in May of that year, and just freezing cold. It was not pleasant to be out there. But he just said, just go there and hang out. Hang out in the clearing. And that makes you super vulnerable. And that means they can stay in the woods and watch you and not be scared. Because you can't see them in the woods because your night vision sucks. They can probably see you because their night vision's probably awesome.
Right.
So I went down there. I parked my car. I walked down the trail. I actually walked to the end of the trail, which is this place is not humongous. Like, the end of the trail is like 500 meters or 1,500 feet. So I walked to the end of the trail. Then I went back to approximately the middle of the trail. And there's a pond behind me with a bit more trees and then a suburb. And in front of me, there's like a bit of grass, then a creek, and then a small area with flat forest. And then there's a big ridge that goes up and it's covered in trees.
Yeah.
But at the top of the ridge is another suburb, right? So this is not a huge forest or anything, but it does have a creek. It does have a ridge, which they're said to like traveling on ridge lines and in creeks. And there's a creek where I'd have to cross the creek to get to them. So like, it's a pretty good situation for them and a pretty vulnerable situation for me. So anyway, I was there and I'm just hanging out, talking to myself, whatever, whistling. And I heard like heavy footsteps in the forest on the other side, not on the ridgeline, but on the flat part and in the trees. And they were coming from the right, coming over to in front of where I was. And then it started snapping branches and stuff too, like really loud.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God. Like, I had the like, let's go look for Sasquatch thing in my head, but I didn't have the you're finding Sasquatch in my head, right? Or he's finding you.
Right.
So when that started to happen, I started to get nervous. And then
Because you probably led to this moment a number of times, but with the anticipation that something could happen, but you don't expect to hear
This is
Like,
literally the first time I tried.
this is the first time you ever tried. I know that you've
Yeah.
talked in the previous
Yeah.
episodes that you've been on, though, that you did go out in the woods in the dark one time and wait to see if you could hear anything, and you'd heard some rocks being thrown into a water, or I don't know if
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly, but you've
Timeline wise, that was after this event, but yeah. This is
oh
just how I got into it. Yeah.
oh I
This was
see.
literally my first time out there at night.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And so then it kept moving and it was getting closer to my car than I was. And I was like, oh shit, I got to get out of here because I don't want whatever that is, whether it's a person or a Sasquatch or what, to be in between me and my car. So I
Hmm.
kind of booted out of there and got in my car and took off. And then I was like, damn it, if that was a Sasquatch, I just left and I had my chance to maybe
Wow.
see one. But at the time, I hadn't done enough research really to know what I thought about whether they're aggressive or not aggressive or whatever. And so I went back the next month when it was a new moon again, because it happens every month. And there was cloud cover again. I was at 2:30 in the morning again. This was in June. And the what was it? I had bought a FLIR because I couldn't see anything that night. So I bought a forward-looking infrared thermal vision monocular. It
Okay.
was a literal FLIR brand. And I thought, okay, now I can maybe see what's in the forest, right? If it's there. And so it's the middle of the night. I'm freezing. I'm waiting there. And I'm looking around and I'm kind of seeing there's something in the reeds on the other side of the pond. And it looks like it kind of has maybe a torso and an arm and stuff. But it's like laying down and I can't really see it very well. I don't think I've ever mentioned this part, but so I was very focused on that, but I just couldn't get a good view of it. And I was kind of like trying to maneuver a bit and using the digital zoom. And I didn't realize at the time that the FLIR only recorded video, not audio, which was very frustrating in retrospect because I could hear lots of things, but there was no audio captured.
Mhm.
Not that it was off, it just doesn't have that ability, which is so dumb. Um, anyway, eventually that thing disappears into the reeds, and I'm like, oh man. And then, like, very soon after that, from behind me, because I'm looking at the pond, not the woods that are behind me now. Usually I was
Right.
looking at the woods because that's where the sounds came from last time.
Mhm.
And so the pond is behind me now. I'm looking at the woods, and I hear something go like whoosh, and it was like, and then I heard sploosh, in the pond right behind me. So it sounded like a rock about this big had just whizzed past my head and hit the water.
Wow.
And then four more of those came whizzing by me. So it was like five softball-sized rocks came real close to my head
Hmm.
and hit the water. And I was like, oh, like, I'm out.
Right.
I'm out. So I went home again. And then I was talking about it in a group on Facebook, and Bigfoot Canada is the group, which I co-administrate now. But you don't have to be Canadian to join. Anyway, people were like, oh, well, Bigfoot is all about honesty and respect. And in native traditions, many of the tribes have Bigfoot on their totem poles. It's like real animal, real animal, real animal, real animal, Bigfoot. And so the implication there is Bigfoot's a real animal. And also most tribes believe Bigfoot is a real animal. They call him a real creature or being. And they call it by many different names. Sasquatch is one. Sabe is another common one. Big Brother or Man of the Forest or whatever. But they were like, yeah, he's all about honesty and respect. And you trying to see him with a thermal device is not very respectful. And you kind of trying to be sneaky about it is not being honest. So they were probably pissed and they whipped some rocks near you. They didn't hit you. They could hit you if they wanted to, but they didn't. So they wanted to scare you out of there. So then I went back July again on the new moon with cloud cover. I was lucking out with the cloud cover on the new moons, but I went back, or actually I sold the FLIR because I was like, well, if this is disrespectful and they don't like it, it's pointless to have it. Because, yeah, I want to make contact. I don't want to make them angry. So I sold the FLIR. I went back and I stood there for a while. And then I was like, hey, guys, if you can hear me, like, The people who are into the more spiritual aspect think they can understand English or any language really. I just said sorry about the thermal. I know it was stupid. I know it was disrespectful. Like, won't do it again. Just wanted to come out here and say that. And then pretty quickly, 2 rocks flew by me and just went sploosh, sploosh. And then I didn't hear anything else after that.
And
So I just took that to mean like,
you didn't run?
thanks for the message. Get the out.
Right.
Pardon my language, but
You didn't get scared on the double splash?
well, since I had like 5 go by me before and they didn't hit me, and the people who I was speaking with said, "Yeah, that was a warning, right?
Right.
If they wanted to hit you, they could have." No, I was more calm that time.
Okay.
But then I was like, okay, like if that's not a person who's in the woods in the middle of the night, it's warm now because it's July. In May it wasn't, but if it's a person out there, I'm not sure they could have been that accurate because to go through the clearing where I am, over the creek, into the woods, we're probably talking 100 feet. And these rocks are like this big. Like, you're not going to be that accurate throwing one if you can even hit me with one,
Right.
And I had found all those structures there and weird stick things, and I had seen the thing in the reeds, and I just was like, I think this might be a Bigfoot. Anyway, to fast forward a long time, years, like 5 years, because that was all in 2017. So in 2022, I met a lady online who said she knew how to communicate with Sasquatch. I said, okay, how? And she said, well, you use symbolic language. Like, if I wanted to say, like, let's meet at the tree, maybe I would draw a picture of a tree, right? And not write the word tree. So using sticks and stones she told me to make a certain design, let's say, out of sticks and stones. And just go put it in the forest in a place where nobody else knows where it is. Right? But where I think there might be Sasquatch. Go put it there, and if they want to correspond with you, if they want to communicate with you, they're going to change the design to look like this. Right? And she shows me what they would change it to.
Okay.
And just to give you an idea, she knows what city I'm in, right? She doesn't know what particular forests I go to. And she lives about 3,400 kilometers away. She is in, like, near Seattle, Washington, on the opposite coast.
Right. So she has no idea where you are in which particular forest, and then in the forest, where in the forest.
So I was like, okay, I'll go do that. So I went out to one of the spots that I've found tree structures and things. And I found some of the sticks and some of the rocks. And I went and I made this design and I left it there. And she said, go back after a couple days and see if there's any changes. Sometimes it takes weeks or longer. And she said, just take a picture of what's there and send it back to me. And I went there and, like, there was nothing the first day because I couldn't wait. I went out the next day. But on the second day, literally, the design she said would be there was there. This is not on a trail. This is off the trail in the forest. You know how many people go off trail in the forest? Like, way, 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 way fewer than people who go in the forest on a trail. And that's way fewer people than are in the city, right? It's like we're getting down to a very small percentage of people who might go off trail in any given forest. And if they found a pile of sticks and stones, like, would they take time to rearrange it? Why? And if they did rearrange it, why the hell would they put it in this shape? The exact shape she said it would be in.
So you're saying that it was changed to the shape, and you should have taken documented pictures of these.
I have pictures. I'm just not sharing them.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I have pictures of everything.
Wow. But you know yourself that
I
happened.
have.
Like
That was such a mind-blowing moment. I can't even explain, because now I'm like, what else could it be? What else could it be? I got like 3, 4 more messages from them over the following summer. And the last one that they gave me, actually, I haven't had time to interpret the last one, but previous to the last one that they gave me was I asked her to interpret it for me because I don't know the details of how to interpret these yet as communications. But she said what this design means. She spent 10 years figuring it out. So, and she was in the forest all the time. So she said what this one means is they're telling you that you need to work on your ego. Which obviously I suck at because I'm on a podcast right now talking about my experiences.
Right.
So, but that brings in the whole spiritual aspect, man.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question was do the people who are believing in this or seeing this stuff, are they believing that Bigfoot, Sasquatch is more alien or energy spiritual beings? Like there's so much confusion out there around that. Like some people believe they're alien, that they're coming
Mm-hmm.
from some other, place. Some people believe they're obviously some people don't believe them at all, and then other people believe that they're more of a spirit and spiritual nature. Where do you sit with that, or where do most people sit with that?
So, my understanding from communications I've had with Indigenous people, I was actually invited to speak at an Indigenous conference, Bigfoot conference or a Sasquatch conference this past summer in Toronto. So I went there. I met a whole bunch of people. It was amazing. I'll be doing the same conference this coming summer. But basically, one of the other names for Sasquatch or Bigfoot or Sabe is for the forest people. And the reason that's important is because people is right in the name. Okay, they believe that they are a people. So we're a people, Homo sapiens sapiens. They are a people, Sasquatch, and we're related somehow. They've done a scientist named Dr. Melba Ketchum has done a DNA study on Sasquatch saliva and hair samples and found that the mother was human and the father is unknown species. That's through GenBank, which is a global database of DNA and what it corresponds to. So the male component of the DNA of these hair samples and saliva was unknown worldwide.
Okay. So the indigenous don't believe it's neither alien or spiritual. They believe it's more human or not
Well,
human, but
okay.
being like a beingness, but they might have like we have spiritual aspects to us, right?
They're a person like a human, but they do believe they have special abilities. Like, there's a lot of talk. The more you look into it, the more you find out that, all people have certain psychic abilities. And it's just like a muscle. You can develop it or you can not develop it. The more you work on it or the more you're around that kind of stuff, the more good you get at it. So imagine you're a Sasquatch growing up in a community of beings like you who flex that muscle every day, right? You're born being taught how to do this. And so what they say actually is that Bigfoot has a foot in both worlds. They have a foot in this dimension and a foot in our dimension. And so they can disappear. And there's lots of witness encounters where they say they see this, 6 to 12 foot tall being just disappear. Or they walk behind a tree that's only 2 inches wide and this humongous being just disappears. Or they see it appear out of nowhere. Or in the middle of a muddy field, there will be a single footprint. Why? Because they appeared there standing on one foot for 1 second and then they disappeared. Just to leave you a little footprint so that you would see it and go like, huh, wonder what left that there. They want you to wonder about them and get curious about them, and then they'll start interacting with you more if you're a nice person. They also say that they know what you're going to think or what you're going to do before you do it. They can listen to what you're thinking or feeling. Sometimes they will chase people away or like be real scary, but that's usually because you're getting too close to their family or where they where they sleep or where they get their food or whatever.
Yeah.
And just
What
like humans, there are nice ones and there are not so nice ones, or they could
just
be in a bad mood or whatever.
one last thing, one last question about Bigfoot, because I have something else I wanted to ask you about as well.
Yeah.
The but the thing I wanted to ask you is, I mean, you could probably say this about many different areas of our life that could be known as phenomena, right? But why do
Yeah.
you believe Bigfoot? If I were to think of all of them, I feel like people are almost coming more into terms with UFO, with
Yep.
life on other planets, things like that, with even with spirituality and ghosts, and because people have had encounters, right? Why do you believe that Bigfoot, Sasquatch, has such a bad reputation in that it's not as common, it's not as commonly talked about, it's
Mm-hmm.
more kind of laughed about.
Yep.
First thing people think of is Harry and the Hendersons or like something silly
100%.
like that. And I'm wondering, what do you think has caused that, or why do you believe that? It's just probably a hard question to answer, but because there's gonna be a lot of people listening to this, we probably lost people after the UAP stuff, right? Because they think this is just too far out there, and I
You
want to kind
know,
of dig in and know why is that?
way back in the day when, let's say, the dawn of UFO sightings, so around 1947, right? That's when Roswell happened. If you said you saw a UFO before that, you were Looney Tunes, right?
Hmm.
Or
Yeah.
if you saw one after, like even for 20 years after that, you were Looney Tunes. It was only when, they started making movies like The Day the Earth Stood Still or War of the Worlds or the radio play of War of the Worlds that this idea of UFOs started getting into the public consciousness. And
Hmm.
how many UFO movies can you think of? Like, or
A
if
lot.
I wanted to
Yeah.
say how many do you think there are, you would probably say hundreds.
Thousands.
So those
Yeah.
have all gotten us used to the idea of aliens and UFOs, right? And lots of
Right.
people are outside at night and they see them and whatever. How many Bigfoot movies can you name?
Harry and the Hendersons.
One.
That's it. You're right.
Yep.
Yeah, it
Maybe
doesn't get.
Sasquatch Summer because it just came out, but
I don't even know that. See, but that's what I mean. I'm not as familiar with. That's perfect. Yeah, you're right.
now I look for these things and there's indie ones and whatever, and I've probably got 30 of them. But that took some looking, man. And there's a lot of bad ones too, but there's some
I
good
bet.
ones.
Yeah.
Letters from the Big Man is, if you want to see like maybe a realistic representation of how Bigfoot operate, in the sense of like what their demeanor might be like or how they might interact with people, Letters from the Big Man is excellent. And it is not what you're thinking a Bigfoot movie will be. I'll tell you that.
Wow. I'll have to check that out. Letters of a big man or
From the
from a
Big
big
Man.
man. Letters from a big man. Interesting.
And there's also one called Citonga, C-I apostrophe Tonga. I forget the rest of the movie title, but Citonga is in there. It's a native word. The director is a guy named James Brost, and he's going to be at the conference this year too. He was at the conference last year when I was there, via video, but I think he'll be there in person this time. But he went out to make a movie about Bigfoot, not knowing anything about Bigfoot. And he went out with some indigenous people in the States, and he's like, okay, so, what do we do? How do we see Bigfoot? And they're like, just calm down there, cowboy, right? First of all. Secondly, if you really want to, here's what we suggest doing. Like, and they're out in a field, middle of nowhere, right? They're like, get down on your knees and sincerely pray. Be as sincere as you can that you want to, some sign that they're here. You want to interact with them. You're not here to do anything bad, whatever, whatever. And he's like, whatever, let's go. And he does. He gets down and he gets, I won't give anything away, but he gets an interaction like right away.
Hmm.
And it just completely like blew his mind. And so, yeah, for them, their whole secret was praying.
Okay.
And like, what tells you you're dealing with a spiritual being, if not a spirit, more than like simply kneeling in the middle of nowhere and praying and then you have something happen,
Right. Well,
right?
people do
There's a
that all the
connection
time. People
to
do that all the
source or
time
whatever,
to connect with past loved ones, or that they do
right?
seances, all these different things, right? So it's the same kind of concept if they're tuning in.
I just want to say too, my job is in technology. I was a professional programmer for 20 years. Then I was a programming manager. Now I'm a business systems analyst. So my whole life is not nutty like this. It's just my hobby and my passion. But
It's just your hobby to be crazy.
yeah,
I talk to people who've crossed over, gone to other realms, seen multiple lives, seen themselves in multiple dimensions, and come back. And then there's people out there who are ill, come back, miraculously heal. Um, what is crazy, right? I mean, I hear what you're saying.
oh
I've
yeah,
told you before, there's probably two areas that I consider like woo woo that I get a little bit too out there with. One is the Bigfoot side, but knowing you and talking to you, it becomes more and more clear that why okay, if I can believe that there are ghostly entities around, or I believe that that could exist, why can't there be a Bigfoot? Like what why am
yeah,
I just putting it in this but I can't put it in this? The other thing, the only other thing is I get the when people have when a spirit takes over them and they have a channeling session,
possession. Yeah,
possession or
or that.
channeling.
Yeah,
I've had trouble with that, but I'm starting to learn more about that too. So I get to learn all kinds of things on this show. I'm sure everybody that's listening in completely understands that this is a hobby and passion of yours, but it's been like that for a long
yeah,
time, and you've shared that and why in past shows that we've done, because this is the third time we've done a show together.
yeah. And it
But
definitely
it's yeah.
requires an open mind. Like
Oh yeah.
a lot of this stuff you hear is like the first time you hear it, the second time you hear it, the 10th time you hear it, you're like, man, come on. But you keep hearing it and you're like, what the heck is going on?
Right.
Like, why are all these people saying they see Bigfoot? What, like, is everybody loony? Like,
Yeah.
and then you just like, okay, well, how do you see Bigfoot? Maybe I'll go and see if I can see Bigfoot. And then you find stuff and you're like, oh,
Yeah, see,
okay.
it's kind of like once you open up that can, you're in it. You're in it.
It's like I said earlier today. I forget. I said it to a friend on Facebook. I said like, when you start to look for the paranormal, it starts to look for you.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
like I've found that to be very true. Like the more you get into this stuff, the more weird stuff starts happening to you.
Hmm. Yeah, I was gonna say, so because I wanted to mention one other thing tonight is I had mentioned this on one of my previous podcast episodes that I was driving just the other day. I was driving and it was snowing. We had a lot of snow here recently, right? You know that.
Yeah.
And I had Christmas music going. And a day or two prior to that, Scarlett, my 2-year-old, she had seen Santa and had an amazing time. She was just so excited about Santa. And, you know, uh, we've been watching her watch shows on Santa and the what Santa does and how he brings toys and all these kinds of things. And I was driving and I was listening by myself in my car, and Rudolph came on, and I started singing the Rudolph song, and I started singing other Santa Claus Christmas songs. And I'm a realist here. I'm saying the things that everybody else wants to say. Everybody out there knows they do this kind of thing
Yeah.
at times. And maybe not everybody, but and I was sitting there thinking, why do I get so excited when I think of Santa Claus and I think of Rudolph and I think of all these things? And then my mind went to um, it didn't just go to Santa. It went to the excitement of fantasy. It went to the excitement of Harry Potter. It went to the excitement of Star Wars. It went to the excitement of like these different fantasy related ideologies that come to me and make me feel kind of like wow, like amazing in comparison to me driving down the road bumper to bumper with angry drivers on the road. And it came to me like a download that felt like why isn't it real? What is real? And immediately I thought, I'm talking to people who are witnessing all kinds of things in their life. They're witnessing all kinds of other realms in their life. And it's like, how much how much more excited are we when we think of something from a place of fantasy in comparison to like whatever this reality is right now, right? We,
Yeah.
we go there. So where I'm trying to go with this is, you know, it makes me wonder if, you know, these things can exist. Like we're used to this realm, right? We're used
Yep.
to getting up, having our drink and eating our food and going to work and going home, going to bed and all this. Okay. But why can't there be an existence where, nah, and this is where I lose people. Why can't we have an existence where dragons are flying around, where we are, you know? And so I'm wondering if you've ever had moments like that where you think, because everybody, when they watch these type of movies, Harry Potter is huge, right?
Yeah.
When they watch, they get excited. We get like,
Yeah.
there's this excitement that happens.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Magic is just like the Force, right? It's like,
Yeah, but it can't be
yeah.
just us being like, "Oh yay, let's make up this fantasy." And then on top of it, I talk to people who say imagination is reality. I just had someone on who had a near-death experience, awesome guy.
Yeah. I was just going to say
Jake
that. Yeah.
Jacob Cooper, and he said imagination is reality. Everything that we think is reality. This chair we're sitting on was imagination. This Zoom session was
Right.
imagination. This
Somebody
everything
thought of how
was.
to do it and made it happen.
That's right. So if imagination is reality and we get excited about certain amounts of imagination, where's that excitement? And not only the excitement of it, where's the development of that idea coming from? Where did the person
Yep.
who wrote Harry Potter come from? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I want to know
Yep.
your input on that. I wanted to leave today's show on that because I really thought that was a weird, fascinating, and fun download I had.
I'll tie it right back into Santa Claus, too. Um, so people are coming around to the idea scientifically that the fundamental building block of the universe is they'll say it's information, which some other people phrase as energy or consciousness, or a mix of consciousness and energy or something like that. So in that sense, if everything is energy or consciousness, or the consciousness shapes the energy and they're kind of two sides of the same coin, it's like, yeah, our imagination is moved by our consciousness to create things, but also there's a concept of something called a tulpa, which is a monster that is created by thought. So a good example of that in recent times is Slender Man. Let's say Slender Man was created for a video game, right? After the video game was out, reports of seeing Slender Man started. Sometimes it would be like, outside on a street, maybe it's a person in a costume, but other times it would be like close quarters and it would be scary and it would be real looking. So it's like all these people playing the Slender Man game and being afraid of Slender Man actually created a Slender Man. It was originated way back when there was things like people would talk about golems, which is like a giant stone creature. And we talk about it like myth today, but maybe those did exist at one time when there was such a critical mass of people that believed in stone golems, that thought energy could actually create one. So I think our thoughts do create our reality. And it's just like with vision boards too, right? It's like when you create a vision board, you're not just putting pictures on a board. You're supposed to be obsessing about that board, going like, man, I want that Ferrari or whatever it is, right? Like, I want it, I want it, I want it. It's coming to me, it's coming to me, it's coming to me. You just think about it all the time. And then the manifestation part happens. It's not that you're like somebody built the car, but you're making that come into your life. But another form of manifestation would be literally creating this golem creature. Anyway, when I was real young, I would say like, I don't know, between the ages of my daughters now, 6 and 8, let's say. We lived in a 100-plus-year-old farmhouse in the countryside. And if I looked out my window, I would see our barn and then forest. If I looked out my parents' bedroom window, I would see this empty field in front of our house. And beyond that was a forest and then town. Anyway, it was Christmas Eve. And I believe there was a snowstorm. And I loved looking out windows to see a snowstorm, you know,
Yeah.
and hear the wind howling and stuff. So I went to my parents' bedroom window. I was supposed to be in bed already. But I was like, oh, I'm just going to go look. So I was looking out their bedroom window in the dark in a snowstorm. And I literally saw a glowing red light over the field. And it was coming towards our house. Up in the air, you know, not super
Yeah.
high, but not on the ground.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy Santa is coming and I'm awake. He's going to
Right.
skip my freaking house,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
I ran out of my parents' bedroom, across the hallway, climbed up onto my bunk bed, got under my covers, and I'm like laying there going like, fall asleep, fall asleep. Like I gotta, you know. And then I heard something on the roof. And I'm in the second floor. I'm on the top of a bunk bed, which I can touch the ceiling. And above that is just a small attic and then the roof. So I heard something on the roof. I don't remember a thing after that.
Interesting. The
But
interesting,
that memory is
yeah,
so vivid,
yeah,
you know, and I
yeah,
was so imbued with the Christmas spirit at the time and full on, like, no hesitation believing.
hmm
Like, I've
yeah,
thought since then, like, what the hell was that? Like,
right, yeah,
maybe it was an orb, maybe it was a UAP, but why would it make a noise on the roof? Like, to
yeah.
me, for all intents and purposes, that was Rudolph on my roof.
That's right. And Santa was coming, and you seen that, yeah, and that's
Yeah.
and here you are with your Santa hat on. So now people are really gonna think you're crazy.
So every
Um,
year for the past 35 years ish, 30 something years. Since
yeah,
I was 17, I'm 47. So yeah, like 30 years. I've worn this for the entire month of December. Not this specific hat, I've gone through a few.
oh, really?
But yeah, from December 1st until the 31st, I wear this, and then back to normal hats. By normal, I mean my beret. But
That's awesome. What's
yeah.
funny about your story, though, is that I had a similar experience. And again, people would be listening to us and be like, well, yeah, guys, it was your imaginations. Like, it was like, and it gets deeper than that, though. And that's not what I was meaning by the question I asked earlier. But when I was a kid, my grandmother was with me in my room and she was telling me I need to go to bed because it was Christmas Eve. And I looked out my window and I remember seeing a flying like reindeer in the sky. Like I seen them like you would in a movie. And I literally had panic over it because I thought the same thing. I thought, "Oh God, he's gonna get here, and I'm not sleeping yet." And I went to bed, and that only happened once in my life, but I saw it.
Yeah, once
Now,
in my life. That's it.
yeah, me too. Yeah, it was like one time, and like, yeah, that could have been my childhood imagination really running wild, but it really, there's something to it that is interesting. And just to touch on what you said before, because yes, these, different things that could have been in our history and things like that. But I think what I was sensing in my mind when I was thinking about this was that this is one realm. We're in one realm of existence here right now. And what's funny and how ignorant we are as human beings is we think we actually know everything. And we actually think that even if someone were to come out tomorrow on the news and say, I have some news for humankind, there are more realms that we exist in than this realm, and we can prove it. And it's other realms where you're not you here, but you're other things, but there are other existences in other realms.
Yeah.
If just that piece of information came out from a more than the way that I talk to people, right? Doesn't that kind of change everything?
Yeah.
Because then
Right.
could some of the fantasies that we have in our minds or the ideas we have to create movies, could they be from somewhere else? Could there be a wizardry school somewhere? Could there be
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars going on in another existence? Like, I know this sounds insane, but it's like, why do we think this is why would we be like, okay, no, this is it. This is what we are, and this is the this is it. And we're just a bunch of these in other existences. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not Joe, I'm Joel in this other existence, and I live in a
Yeah.
completely different on a different planet, but I look kind of the same. Like,
It's the upside down, man.
yeah, yeah, it's just the
That's
idea that
one of
it
them.
could be something that's completely different than what we're used to, something we
Yep.
couldn't fathom. So I don't know what it was. It just came to me like, why do we get excited about it? Why are kids so connected with fantasy? Why are they
Mm.
more, why are they have the higher ability of imagination than we do as adults? Because we
They haven't
become
been told
less
it's impossible yet.
right. And
And
why,
their vibrations are super high by default
and where have they
until we
just
break
come
them
from?
down.
Where have they just come from? Right? Like
Yeah, somewhere
they're
else.
closer to somewhere else than we are now. We're
Where
getting
was their
further and
consciousness
further.
before birth?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So I believe there's more of a, I don't know, there's just more of a remembrance. But what
Mm-hmm.
really sat with me, and I'll leave it like this, what really sat with me that day was how excited I got over over fantasy. And it made me think, what is fantasy? It was just this, there's this one thought. And I was like, whoa, I need some sleep. But then I was like, but do I? So I wanted to know your take on it. But this is an amazing talk, man. This has been awesome. I appreciate when you come on. We should do this more. I'm sure that we will have people who will follow what we're saying, will people who won't. But I do appreciate you coming on and doing this today.
It was my pleasure, and I found it hilarious that I started the episode with a Santa hat on, and we ended the episode by talking about seeing reindeer, Rudolph,
Right.
and that we both saw that.
I know. We've never even talked about that.
What the heck?
We've
We've
never
known each other
mentioned
for
that.
like 20 years now, and we never brought
Yeah.
that up.
That is wild. And
Yeah.
it was just whether it was fantasy or what it was in my eyes, I saw it too. It's wild. But I always want to turn to the audience and say, please continue to like, share, and subscribe to Soul Inspired. We go in all different directions in all planes of existence here on the show. So I appreciate you. If this would help somebody or you just think somebody would be entertained by this conversation, please share it. And thank you so much, Derek, for being on Soul Inspired. Appreciate it.
I'll always be here when you want me.
So